You have data everywhere, but is it working together? Meet Curator, the automotive industry's first unified intelligence engine. Curator unifies data from all corners of your dealership to transform marketing, sales, and customer interactions. See it today at gubagoo.com.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Monday, May 19th, 2025. I'm Jamie Butters, Executive Editor of Automotive News in Detroit.
And I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, tariffs are driving up prices, and another wave of sticker shock is on the way. A new report says Toyota offered to help Nissan after talks with Honda fell apart. And GM gets its highest ever supplier relations score amid tariff uncertainty. Plus, Grayson Brulte, CEO of the Road to Autonomy, talks about some big ups and downs for self-driving truck startup Aurora.
It just seems that the wheels are coming off the bus over to Aurora, and it's sad.
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry.
Despite robust sales in April and sweeping discounts from some automakers, the average new vehicle price rose 2.5% last month. That's according to Cox Automotive and Moody's Analytics Vehicle Affordability Index. And the trend is just beginning. Ford said it expects to raise prices by late June on its 3 Mexico-built vehicles by up to $2,000. That will deliver another blow to vehicle affordability that data show has already worsened since the Trump administration's import taxes were implemented about 6 weeks ago. The study from Cox and Moody's found the average monthly payment rose 3% to $753. That's the highest yet this year. And the number of median weeks of income needed to buy the average new vehicle rose by a full week.
Toyota has surfaced as a backup partner of sorts for Nissan. That's according to a news report that says the world's largest automaker offered to help Nissan after its merger talks with Honda collapse. According to Japan's Mainichi Daily, a Toyota executive contacted Nissan in February to offer support when negotiations with Honda abruptly ended. The newspaper did not detail the results of Toyota's overture and didn't say where it obtained the information. Neither Nissan nor Toyota has publicly disclosed discussions on partnering or cooperating. A spokesman for Nissan declined to comment on the Mainichi report. A Toyota spokesman said the company was looking into the report.
Toyota has long been the most popular automaker among suppliers, and it widened its lead in Plant Moran's latest survey. Toyota, Honda, and General Motors each improved their working relationships with parts makers as the industry grapples with heightened uncertainty from tariffs and canceled electric vehicle programs. GM improved its score by 3%, giving the automaker its best performance in the history of the survey. Suppliers have rated GM increasingly well in recent years in areas such as communication and transparency. Nissan, Ford, and Stellantis all received lower scores, landing them at poor or very poor ratings in Plant Moran's annual survey of automaker supplier relationships. You can find all the details at autonews.com.
And Toyota Industries is set to accept a buyout offer from Toyota Motor Chairman Akio Toyoda. That's according to Japanese news agency Kyodo, which did not give attribution. The report says the takeover bid will be announced in May or June. Bloomberg reported last month that Akio Toyoda is planning to buy out Toyota Industries for more than $41 billion through a special purpose vehicle with backing from Japan's biggest banks. It cited people familiar with the matter. A spokesperson for Toyota Motor declined to comment on the Kyoto report, reiterating that the company is always considering ways to efficiently manage its holdings and that nothing has been decided. And those are today's headlines. So, Jamie, tariffs are driving up prices. That's according to Cox Automotive. In your opinion, are there regions or demographics more vulnerable to sticker shock from tariff hikes?
Yeah, it really looks like the group that's going to face it the hardest is the people buying entry-level models. They're probably struggling to make a $500, $550, $600 payment. And if their prices go up by $2,000, $3,000 or more, it's just really going to make it a stretch for them, especially with insurance costs as high as they are. There's been a little more elasticity in the higher ends of the market. luxury buyers who can afford $800, $900, $1,000 payments. If their monthly payment goes up by $100, nobody likes that, but they can probably bear it and carry on with buying the vehicles that they want to buy, much more so than on the mainstream side.
Gotcha. Coming up, the Road to Autonomy CEO Grayson Brulte talks about the latest twists and turns for AV trucking startup Aurora, which just lost one of its leaders to General Motors. That's next on Daily Drive.
Your dealership has no shortage of customer information. But when that data is conflicting, messy, and spread across a multitude of platforms, it's impossible to activate properly. As the automotive industry's first unified intelligence engine, Curator enriches and unifies your customer data across platforms, like your CRM, your DMS, your website, and even your marketing efforts. It then injects that information back into your most vital systems to provide a single view of each customer and equip your sales team with the information they need to close a deal. When one of the largest volume Subaru dealers in the country wanted to tap into its data goldmine, they turned to Curator. In just 4 months, Huberger Subaru experienced a 55% higher closing ratio and a return of 15 times their investment. Want to see it for yourself? Check out the case study at gubagoo.com/curator. That's GUBAGOO.com/curator.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Jamie Butters with Kellen Walker. You might expect Aurora Innovation to be popping champagne right now. The self-driving truck startup just hit a huge milestone when it deployed its semis for commercial service with no human backup drivers. But now it's putting humans back in. That's after truck maker PACCAR made public objections to Aurora's use of its vehicles in commercial service. It marks the second rocky moment for Aurora since its milestone launch. Earlier this month, co-founder Sterling Anderson said he will leave the company to take a job with General Motors as its first ever chief product officer. Grayson Brulte is the CEO of The Road to Autonomy. He recently spoke with our own Pete Bigelow on Shift, a podcast about mobility. Here's a piece of their conversation.
Sterling Anderson leaves Aurora, goes to General Motors. I kind of feel like this is one small step for Sterling Anderson, one giant leap for GM. What do you make of his move?
I didn't see it coming. I like that. If you look at the numbers that are out there and the GM retirement age, Ms. Barr, 2 years will have to retire. Is this part of succession planning? Is the question that's going through my head. Because if you look at the press release from GM, Mr. Anderson's over going to see product, both for the electric vehicles, the internal combustion vehicles, and then most importantly, software. You and I know this. Automotive News has done a really great job covering this. Detroit's struggling to figure out the software-defined vehicle. Mr. Anderson was the product leader on the Model X, worked on the Tesla Autopilot, so he has automotive experience, software experience. Is this part of succession planning potentially for Mary Barr to see that her legacy, this transformation, which she's trying to usher into GM, can continue?
That is taking things a step further, Grayson. I was just trying to think of what's Sterling going to do here in the opening few months, but you're right. I think that, whenever there is a change in leadership at GM, and there's no reason necessarily to think it's soon or imminent, there's a whole deep bench that GM has now built with Sterling sitting on top of that in terms of software and battery expertise. It will be fascinating to see how that develops over the years and then perhaps transpires when there is a change.
But there's a big but here. Do they actually let him build and be innovative, or does he get put into the GM machine and become GM?
Right. Obviously, Kyle Vogt would probably not approve of this move based on his tweets from last December when GM scuttled the robotaxi portion of Cruise. So there definitely is that push-pull between old and traditional GM and perhaps new GM.
And you have to look at the union contracts, or how much are they going to weigh down in terms of where he wants to innovate? And if he's going to innovate, is he going to have to talk to Mr. Jacobson and cut back on the buybacks and put more money into R&D and research? There's a lot of questions that have to be answered, because if you're a GM shareholder, you count on the dividends, you count on the buybacks to increase the stock price. But if Mr. Anderson wants to take it to in an innovative build the future, which he has a long track record of doing it, you're going to run into headwinds. You're not going to have a tailwind. You're going to have a headwind.
When I talked to Sterling when he made his announcement earlier this week, he said, he liked going to a place where he did not think the tail was going to wag the dog, i.e., he did not think that quarterly requirements would kind of override a need to make changes for a long-term future.
Aurora is a small market cap with a short seller report out now. GM's is a large cap, but it has legacy costs. And there are pensioners, use the English term, there are pensioners that depend on that dividend. So there will be quarterly pressures. Not as much quarterly pressure as you have at Aurora, but if he is to run GM, every CEO of a publicly traded company does face quarterly pressures.
No question. You mentioned the Aurora short seller report that's out here midweek. Grayson, tell us about what you make of that. Obviously, PACCAR does not seem pleased about its trucks being used in Aurora's big self-driving milestone from a few weeks ago.
I'll use a kid's term for you, Pete. Wowzerville. Complete wowzerville. I don't know any other way to describe it for that. I did confirm independently outside the short sellers report that the reporting in that report about PACCAR is true. I'm not a lawyer, but does that open the door to potential litigation? And again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm simply asking a question.
So Sterling leaves. This report comes out. Does Aurora keep on trucking here, Grayson? Or, not to be insanely corny there, but they have a pretty solid plan for the rest of 2025 to continue logging driverless miles, to open new routes, to points west and kind of move past that hours of operation point that humans hit. It seems like they are on the cusp of something bright and big here, no?
Well, we all went through fifth grade. Well, I hope you went through fifth grade. You didn't skip it. And for some reason, the only thing I remember fifth grade was a book, A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. The famous opening line in the book, Tale of Two Cities. For whatever reason, I remember that always. That's Aurora. You do a historic, significant milestone, driver out, Dallas to Houston, no safety driver, fully autonomous, not a one-off event. Multiple times you've publicly logged over 2,000 fully driverless miles. And then Mr. Anderson announces he's leaving. And for the record, the messaging at Aurora, they completely botched that. We'll get into that next. Then you get hit with a short sellers report. And then we all know, based on SEC filings, they're going to have to raise billions of more dollars of cash. It's snowballing on the negativity side while it's also accelerating on the positive side. And is the train eventually going to get so big where it meets in the middle and you have one of those old-fashioned explosions when the train self-implodes? I don't know.
I'm just going to say, first and foremost, you did some advanced reading for fifth grade. I don't think we got to that till like eighth grade high school in northern New Jersey.
Hey, northern Jersey's great. It's the home of Frank Sinatra, the chairman of the board.
That's right. Frank Sinatra, Bruce Springsteen. Who else? Nobody from the self-driving industry that I can think of.
You got Bon Jovi's New Jersey guy?
Of course. Brian Fallon, Gaslight Anthem. We got it going on there in northern New Jersey. We don't talk about this as much with Aurora, but I'm curious if you think robotaxis still fit into their plans. If they do, when does that come? Or are they just a trucking company and that's something that has faded and will continue to fade?
Give you a kid's line again. We don't talk. The kids say we don't talk about Bruno. I'm going to say, if I'm Aurora, we don't talk about robotaxis. If you think about it, so Toyota put out a press release with Waymo, which to me seemed to counteract Tesla's upcoming robotaxi launch. But that's what Toyota with Waymo. And then you and I have both been in the May mobility vehicle in Ann Arbor. Driver out works very well. Then Toyota's with them in Japan. Toyota's on their cap table. To me, it seems that Toyota's putting more and more resources into May mobility, And then on the other hand, at Aurora, we don't talk about robotaxis. They're not messaging it. They're not talking about it. I don't know where they go with it. I think they have to figure out trucking first. They have to figure out sustainable business. And I will say there is chatter brewing on Wall Street where Mr. Urmson needs a COO there. And if you listen to the earnings call, their Q1 2025 earnings call, and you talk to analysts after the earnings call, it was too technical. So who's ever advising Mr. Urmson to be technical is failing him. Mr. Urmson has to tell that story of what Aurora's building. It just seems that another kid's term, I don't know why I'm on kids' terms today, Pete, the wheels are coming off the bus over at Aurora, and it's sad.
That's not the phrase that I would have expected to hear here like 3 weeks after they launched driverless trucks. I feel like it's really one of the more dramatic turns that I've seen in the 10 or 15 years I've been covering this industry.
So there's the right way to do things, Pete, and there's the wrong way to do things. You and I, we have a lot of things in common, but one thing I'll share publicly, we have deep media experience with media backgrounds. We understand how to message. We understand how to communicate. You come out. Sterling gives this quasi-emotional statement and a global iconic company. Why not just come out and say it? Mr. Anderson is going to GM, coordinate with GM, announce it on the earnings call that he's going there. And then the question is, then why not have an off-ramp? Mr. Anderson, at the end of the summer, will be transitioning into a role, blah, blah. It's the next chapter of his career. We're very grateful. And then, so that's just one part of this, Pete. Then you've got the Uber $1 billion bond sale, which is Uber's getting out of Aurora. That's a clear off thing. And yet, crickets.
The Road to Autonomy CEO Grayson Brulte spoke with our own Pete Bigelow on Shift, a podcast about mobility. You can hear their full conversation about all of the latest automated driving news on Shift, wherever you get your podcasts. That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Jamie Butters.
And I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer, as well as our own Michael Martinez, Hans Greimel, and John Irwin for their reporting for today's podcast. You can get the latest news on tech and innovation, tariffs, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.